Hey, what's up everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Derium's Competitive Pokemon. Today we're going to be talking about Tord Reklev's North American Intercontinental Championship winning Drampa Garbodor deck. This deck is super sweet, very innovative deck list that he came up with. It's very consistent, lots of 4-ofs in this deck, which is just a super cool kind of deck to run. I love running consistent decks like this, and I just love the way this deck looks when it's all laid out. So, there's definitely no funny business going on in this list. It's very straightforward. Props to Tord for coming up with this thing and for winning the biggest Pokemon tournament ever held with it. So let's take a look at the cards that he played. He's got 3 copies of Drampa-GX, 3 copies of Trash-Lance Garbodor, 1 copy of Garbotoxic Garbodor, 4 Trubbish, and 4 Tapu Lele-GX. So as you can see here, couple of omissions right from the start. He does not play Oricorio, so he doesn't have that check there for Vespiquen. Maybe he was just saying, like, you know what, probably won't play against any Vespiquen decks. If I do, I'm just going to trade Trash-Lance with them and hope for the best. So did not play that Oricorio that we see in so many of these lists, but just plays the basics. 4 copies of Tapu Lele-GX is absolutely astounding. So this means that Tord was probably pretty much able to pick out whatever supporter he wanted for turn with that Wonder Tag ability. Also able to just lean on these Tapu Leles as backup attackers. Was able to use things like Tapu Cure GX if he wanted to, but just a super consistent and straightforward list. I love what he's got going on here with the 4 Tapu Lele. I think that's very innovative and just super, super strong. And you go along with Drampa-GX, 3 copies of Drampa-GX. Drampa is just one of the best attackers in format. Not only is it a consistent card because of that big wheel GX attack, being able to shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 10 cards, just super good on the first turn of the game. Also great because of its Righteous Edge attack, being able to hinder the opponent by discarding their special energy and just poking them for a quick 20, 50 if you have a Choice Band attached and your opponent is an EX or a GX. But the main bread and butter here is that Berserk attack. If Tord uses Rainbow Energies to put energy or to put damage on your own bench, and so once you get damage on your own bench, whether your opponent has hit one of your other Pokemon and you retreat that Pokemon to the bench, or you use Rainbow Energy to self-inflict damage on your own bench, then Berserk can just go off, just streaming 180 after 180 with Choice Band equipped. It's just a very, very strong, aggressive Pokemon. Drampa is just really just showing how strong this card is in this deck. This whole deck is kind of built around using Drampa to use Berserk, Garbodor sweep up with Trash-Lance, and Tapu Lele to fill in all the missing pieces. Garbotoxic Garbodor here, super good at shutting off abilities. We're talking about Volcanion, Decidueye, Feather Arrow, even Zoroark stand-in. It's really good just for shutting those abilities off, and even turning off Tapu Lele's Wonder Tag makes it so that the opponent can't pick their supporter for turn. So super great card, very underrated, I think. Just people, don't really understand how great of a card Garbodor, this Garbotoxic Garbodor, really is. I mean, even shutting off things like Greninja, Metagross, there are so many ability decks that this thing gives problems to. So that's it for the Pokemon. I'm going to move on to the supporters. Tord plays 4 copies of Professor Sycamore, 4 copies of N, a Teammates, which I love in these Garbodor decks, Brigette, 2 Lysandre. So, as you can see here, no funny business. He is straight to the point. Not a lot of tech supporters here. Doesn't even play a copy of Hex Maniac. I guess he just assumes that 1 copy of Garbotoxic Garbodor is going to be enough to get him through all those ability matchups. A lot of decks are playing that 1 copy of Hex Maniac just in case Garbotoxic Garbodor doesn't get out into play. Tord doesn't need it. So he plays the 4-4, just draw, consistency, great. Let's talk about this Teammates though. I think Teammates is a very, very good card in these Garbodor decks. It allows you to trade with decks like Zoroark. I actually lost in my top 8 match to Sam Chen. I was playing Zoroark Drampa. My opponent was playing Drampa Garbodor with the Teammates in it. My opponent was able to use Teammates in all 3 games in order to stream attackers and get exactly what he wanted out of his deck. Now Zoroark Drampa plays Teammates, and it is very useful in there, but Garbodor decks up until that time hadn't really adopted the Teammates yet until the North American Intercontinental Championships. Started seeing a lot of Teammates in those Garbodor decks, and it was proving to be very, very useful. Obviously, Brigette is there. Great for that first turn to set up Trubbish and get your Drampa into play. Lysandre's obviously want to bring up your opponent's bench Pokemon, game-winning card. And that's it for the supporters. Moving on to the trainers. Tord plays 4 Ultra Ball. I love that Tord plays 4 Choice Band, just like I did in my top 8 deck. He plays 4 copies of Float Stone. I talked about all these 4-ofs in this deck. 4 Choice Band, 4 Float Stones, so consistent. Tord is always drawing into exactly what he needs with this deck because he plays 4 copies of them. Plays a very standard 2 copies of Field Blower. Field Blower is great in this deck just because it allows you to bump those tools off of your opponents, which means that you are powering up Garbodor's Trash-a-Lanche attack. By knocking off their tools, you put them in the discard, then Trash-a-Lanche does more damage. Lots of synergy there, so great that we play 2 copies of Field Blower. Choice Band also adds Trash-a-Lanche's damage output, so even if your opponent is able to limit the amount of items in their discard, you make it even harder for them to do so. You make it so that you're doing even more damage with Garbodor, even if they don't have that many items in the discard. Field Blower puts them there. Choice Band adds to Garbodor's damage output overall. We play 4 copies of Verse Seeker. Love that. Like I said, I don't really love the 3 concession that we're seeing in some decks. I do like a full suit of Verse Seeker. It's just such a strong card, and it's hard to rationalize not playing 4. Plays 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher. Had seen 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher in some decks, but Tord also plays a Super Rod to help him get back those energy as well, should he need to get basic energy back into his deck, just giving him that flexibility. Now, if we take a look at the energy in Tord's deck, the energy is also interesting. Not only does Tord play 5 basic Psychics, which is a little short, he also plays 4 copies of Rainbow Energy. I had not seen a Drampa Garbodor deck playing 4 copies of Rainbow Energy yet, and of course he's got the 4 double colorless energy. Now this card, very good. I played 1 copy of Rainbow Energy in my Zoroark Drampa deck. He plays 4 here in order to self-inflict damage and be able to use Drampa's Berserk attack for full force, for that full 150 damage. Now you'll notice that Tord opted not to play any copies of Team Magma Base. Many of these Drampa Garbodor decks had been playing copies of Team Magma Base, but really it ends up being a pain in a lot of matchups, doing 20 damage to all of the Pokemon that you put onto your own bench. So I do see why Tord decided to play just the Rainbow Energy instead. That being said, it makes it so that Tord cannot hit a turn 2 Berserk for 180 as easily. He can get it done if the opponent plays into it and damages one of your bench Pokemon for you, but naturally he is not going to be able to get that off because he needs 3 attachments to get it done with Rainbow Energy. So that's it. He plays lots of Psychics. I mean, as you can see with the 5 and the 4, he's pretty much always going to be able to get that Trash-a-Lanche attack off. Makes his deck very consistent. I think consistency is the key word for Tord's list. I saw he posted on Facebook after his championship. He said consistency is king, and I would have to agree with him. This list is extremely consistent. Very impressive performance by Tord. Thank you guys for checking out that deck profile. Make sure to stick around. Check out my other videos for some gameplay action of that same deck. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for checking out the new channel. Take it easy.